18 January 2024, and today I'm going to give you yet another update on all the important stories that are taking place in Zimbabwe. And specifically, we have to be very, very aware of where we are. Currently, the most important events that are going to take place in Zimbabwe are around SADC. So SADC is the one that has got the key to the future of what is going to happen in Zimbabwe. And ED is well aware that SADC has the keys. So I want to bring to your attention and I want to discuss the cases, the constitutional court case that was heard this week and what it means. So if you look at CCZ1 of 2024, that is a case which was dismissed this week. And there's this guy called Brian Murray. He's been doing some crazy stuff on and writing letters to SADC and writing letters to Parliament and doing all sorts of things. And my belief is that this behavior is not being used by ED to justify himself and his appointment and all the electoral things that are happening around Zimbabwe. So you know that there is a dispute between Chamisa, who has the backing of all the regional bodies and the international bodies. And therefore, the issue at SADC is not yet resolved. Chamisa has a right to claim that the election in Zimbabwe was rigged. And therefore, SADC cannot just fold their arms. And what has been happening is, because Chamisa has not gone to court, ED has been trying to make this a legal case so that he can eventually go to SADC and say there's a court case. The judges have ruled that there was no rigging. And if you look at the Constitutional Court case CCZ1 of 2024, which was brought by Brian Murray, this case was dismissed, I think 2 days ago, and this has been published. The court case was dismissed as it was said it is frivolous and vexatious. And the people that were cited by Murray here include people like Commander of the Defense Forces, Chief Justice Malaba, and let's see who else here. Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, Clerk of Parliament, Attorney General, Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency, Louis Uriri. So we've got a case that was brought against all these people about the elections. And now that case has been dismissed, which means ED can now go to SADC and say there was a court case CCZ1 of 2024 which was dismissed, and therefore my election was legal. The courts have ruled that this was legal. And as I said, this is a stunt. They're trying to replace Chamisa with some odd people who come up with different court cases. And this is going to take to SADC, and when they finally discuss and say, do you know that there's a court case which was heard in the Constitutional Court, and the people who brought that case lost. So I don't know who is Brian Murray, but what he's doing is basically legitimizing the Mnangagwa regime or government according to the ruling that has been given here. When you look at it, if Chamisa had gone to court and said the elections were rigged, this is exactly the same judgment that they were going to give, that this claim by Chamisa was frivolous and vexatious. So I wish we could one day get this Brian Murray and have a chat with him and see if he's a real person or he's another Sengezo Chabang who has been created to create confusion. So for those who just joined, as I said, there was a court ruling, constitutional court ruling, in the case CCZ number 1 of 2024, in which Brian Murray had challenged the elections. So everything that has happened since the elections until this very point, he's been writing letters to Clerk of Parliament, to all sorts of people, Zimbabwe Human Rights and all that, saying that everything that's happening according to the elections was not okay. And in one judgment, the judges have said everything that has happened since the elections is now fine. And the judges here are Honorable Justice Kachwayo in chambers, Mr. Justice Garwe, and Mr. Justice Gorowa, JCC. So Mnangagwa has basically now formalized and legitimized this election, has legitimized everything that has happened with Sengezo Chabangu. All these things that has happened, according to that constitutional court ruling, it's now legal. It is okay. There's no problem. So that's why I was saying, if people like Anaberia's primary are going to court and they're challenging these elections, who exactly are they working for? And if you look at these court papers, they're so shambolic. I looked at those court papers, and I'll probably get a chance to get our robot to read the judgment when it becomes available, because I didn't see the judgment here. It was just given as frivolous and vexatious. So CCZ number 1 of 2024 has legitimized ED and all the elections that have happened in Zimbabwe and everything that has happened. That is the essence of this court case, CCZ number 1 of 2024. And they've basically replaced Chamisa. If Chamisa had gone to court, this guy has gone to court and lost. And basically, ZANU-PF can now point to that court ruling and say the court has ruled that the elections were free and fair. They've ruled that the records were fair. They've ruled that everyone who was recorded and replaced, everything's fine. So CCZ 1 of 2024 is a stunt, and it's been led by ED and his people. It's a strategic plan to make sure that when they go to SADC, they'll say that there's a court ruling, and this court ruling justifies everything. So if you've got the papers, let's see if you can send them to me. I don't have the full judgment. And if you know Beria's primary, we need to bring me here so that he can explain what he's been doing, what all this crazy stuff he's been doing, going to the Constitutional Court with such shambolic papers like the ones that he took, trying to challenge the elections and the recalls and the by-elections, and then losing dismally. So let's go to the next story. The next story is the recall by CCC president of Harare Mayor Jacob Mafume. It's in the news, but I haven't seen confirmation from the Minister of Local Government to say these guys have been recalled. So let's see if who is going to prevail between Chamisa and Chabangu. Chabangu is also written to the same ministry and says he's the only one who can recall. So let's see who's going to prevail. If Chamisa prevails, then everything will be perfect, because then Chamisa can take over and proceed with his political party. The court has already ruled that Chamisa is the one who is the legal president of the CCC, and Chabangu is not the Secretary General or interim Secretary General of the CCC. So let's see how the Minister of Local Government is going to react after these recalls. And I've looked at all the platforms of the CCC. They have not denied that Chamisa is recalled. Jacob Mafume, Deputy Mayor of Bulawayo, all these people, they have not denied it. So let's see what happens. And within the next few days, we will know if Jacob Mafume has been recalled as the Mayor of Harare and what are the implications. My understanding is Chabangu is just doing crazy stuff now. He's got no locus to act on behalf of the CCC. Parliament cannot take instructions from him. There's an interdict. And therefore, I want to see how they're going to behave. The Minister of Local Government, remember, they attempted to get out of it. In the court case that our robot read, you clearly heard that the Minister of Local Government tried to be not part of the case because they were saying there was no action for them. But the judge, Chitapi, caused them and convinced them to also act on the judgment. So they cannot take instruction from Chabangu, but they can take instruction from Chamisa. So let's see what they're going to do in terms of the letter that has been written by Chabangu. Chabangu cannot write a letter and say, I was interdicted, so you must not act on behalf of anyone else. Very, very interesting. Want to see what these guys are going to do if Chamisa has done these recalls. So let's see what happens. This is very, very important, because if this goes through, it means Chamisa can then go and recall as many people as he likes in Parliament. And as I said, we need to trigger a constitutional crisis, and recalling everyone in Parliament from the CCC will trigger that constitutional crisis. It will force a fresh election in Zimbabwe. That's another way of doing it. If Chamisa was to recall everyone in Parliament, recall everyone in councils, recall everyone in Senate, there will be a fresh election in Zimbabwe. And that will be something that doesn't need SADC. It will happen immediately. The problem is the current environment in Zimbabwe is not conducive for an election. So we need to see and be very, very careful how people proceed here. The next election that should be held in Zimbabwe should be under the supervision of SADC or an international organization, not through ZEC. So I do not know what is the best way to proceed here, but in terms of triggering a constitutional crisis, Chamisa is now in a position to do so. If he wants, he can do it, because there is that interdict. Sengizo Chabangu, what he's been doing is crazy. And the next step is to get Sengizo Chabangu arrested, because what he's doing is illegal. He is actually forging, or he's committing forgery and lying. So they can basically take him to court now and get him arrested. Now let's go to another story here. The EMA Director General Aaron Chagona, has been arrested, and there is a company called Westprop. Westprop, these guys they're owned by Ken Sharp. They're involved in this case. A competitor was trying to build a property near to where their offices are, or near where they are located. And initially, the EMA had said these guys cannot build. These are the same guys whose chief operating officer has taken Tendai Biti to court. So EMA, I don't know if they're connected to ZANU-PF or what, but Westprop is popping up in a lot of cases, and they're getting a lot of support from the Zimbabwe government. So I don't understand who is in Westprop and how they are connected to everyone in government, but there's something going on there. They've gotten this guy, Chigona, arrested, and he's been granted bail of 3,000. He initially didn't give their competitor a certificate to build, but then when he did so, the guy then got arrested, and he was in jail. He was in court yesterday. So we want to find out if Westprop is operating above board, or if Westprop is somehow connected to someone in government. There is a story there with Westprop, because they're coming up. The government is defending them so much. They're winning court cases here and there, and they seem to have muscle in the court. So I don't understand what is happening to Westprop. Then in terms of cyanide poisoning, I always say that Makorokoza, these guys would dig for gold. They're a menace. And Chiwenga is correct to say these guys must stop. So in Mangura this week, 23 cattle died after drinking water, which is poisoned by cyanide. So if you're living in an area where there's mining, you're in danger of dying, because these guys, they just put cyanide everywhere. And so don't drink water from the rivers. Don't be very careful, especially if you live around Mutare and all those places where there's massive mining taking place illegally. And you have to be very careful, because in Mangura, this cattle, 23 cattle, just died after drinking water from which is poisoned by cyanide. People have to take this very, very carefully, and the EMA guys must go around the country and watch what is happening with this mining and cyanide. Cyanide is very, very dangerous. You drink it, you die that very moment. Then we have the story of Mbudzi Interchange. Corruption at Mbudzi Interchange has reached massive, massive levels. If you go to Hopo Chingono's page, he has explained how the funding there was a problem. They funded it through government, they funded it through a loan, they funded it through the World Bank money. There's money that was given to Zimbabwe from the World Bank. So they funded it 3 times. I think it was almost, by his numbers, around 44 million, whereas it was only supposed to be around 11 million. So the problem is not that. The problem is that because of Taguire's involvement, the project at Mbudzi Interchange is stopped. And also Taguire is supposed to provide cement there, and they're failing to provide cement. His companies, he took over the cement company and is failing to provide cement. So the Mbudzi Interchange has stopped because of corruption, because of failure to deliver, and at the same time, there is massive, massive looting that has taken place at Mbudzi Interchange. It's a chaos, and so far there are 9 bridges that are just standing there, nothing happening, and traffic is now a problem around Mbudzi because of the failure to deliver. These guys are a menace. They are unable to deliver anything. And I remember Ken of Westprop was also involved there initially in a project to build vending stalls. If you go in the past, you'll see that he was involved in that project. So we have a bunch of people that are involved in projects that they cannot implement but they use all their money, their effort to steal. There's a lot of stealing taking place in Zimbabwe, and the worst person on earth is someone who steals and then fails to deliver. I always say, if you have to steal, then steal the money, but deliver the project. But with these guys, they steal and then they fail to deliver, which is crazy. Because you steal 2 times, at least use half of the money to build. And this is not happening. In China, they will just take you and put you on a firing squad and take you out. This is very bad what's happening at Mbudzi interchange. And there is a signature of Tagwire in everything. Everything that happens in Zimbabwe, you've got the signature of Tagwire in there. And it's not moving. Things are not moving there. Right, let's go to the next story. And I think this is the final story. Evidence Charlie is in the news again. And prophetess Hadassah Caroline, he has gone to the H Metro newspaper and revealed that prophetess Hadassah Caroline is a woman of questionable morals. She left her husband in Zimbabwe and went to live with a man in South Africa, a pastor, as lovers. And he said he's going to reveal even more details about her. So she's now reluctant to talk to the media about the car. He's saying he gave her back a car. She must just keep quiet. So this is a very, very crazy story. But my only concern is when she said that Evidence Chari is beating up his wife. I don't expect a man of God to beat up his wife. So Anesu Chari, if they're beating you up, you must call me. And then we'll expose evidence if he's beating you up. I don't like people who beat their wives because that's crazy. Now, I think let's recap and then I'll look at the comments. There is a court case, constitutional court case, CCZ1 of 24, which has been, the judgment has been delivered, which basically has the effect of saying everything that happens with the elections in Zimbabwe since August is fine. This was brought by various Brian Trust Mari against Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, Clerk of Parliament, Law Side of Zimbabwe, Commander of the Zimbabwe, all these people. You can look at the court case. This is a crazy court case, poorly done, and he lost. So basically what they've done is they've replaced Chamisa with Mari. They judged against Mari, and the essence is that if ever you go to court against ZEC, against all these other, they will just point to this constitutional case and say the judges of the constitutional court have said that everything was fine. So as I said, if you know Mari, bring me here. Let's talk to Mari and see what he's trying to do, because he's basically legitimized everything that happens since August. This court case was so poorly done that when the judges dismissed it, it's going to make it very difficult for anyone else to go to court against ZEC, against all this clerk of parliament and all that, because his behavior is erratic and irrational. I cannot believe what Mari has been doing. That guy is not doing any service, or he's doing a disservice to the whole attempt to challenge what is happening. He's even written to SADC. I've been looking at his Twitter. He's been looking at SADC, writing letters that don't make sense, that are not coherent. And you cannot ask such a person to be representing Chamisa or what he's saying. The issues that Chamisa is raising, they are well documented. They are supported by international organizations. There's international organizations like SADC, EU, AU, Commonwealth. No one has said this election is free and fair. But when you file such papers of the Constitutional Court, which are so weak, then you get a poor judgment like this. No one else can bring a case against the Constitutional Court, against ZEC, against all these bodies, because you've already lost. And they'll point to the same case that they lost. This case has been thrown out because it was frivolous and vexatious. Now, let's go to the next court case which I was talking about, which I want to recap, which is the issue of waste properties. I don't know what waste property is doing, but they're always involved in these court cases where they end up winning and someone ends up losing. Who in government is behind waste property? I do not know. And then in terms of Evidence Chari, he's gone crazy. He's been doing a lot of crazy stuff in the past few days, but now he's exposed prophetess Hadassah Caroline. So these are the cases that we have today. Politics is getting very, very confused. And in terms of Jacob Mafume's RICO, we're going to see whether that is a real thing whether who comes out on top. If Chamisa comes out on top, his next move should then be to recall everyone. And then we trigger that constitutional crisis and have a fresh election in Zimbabwe. That is the next move. But if Chabangu prevails, then we've got another serious problem. Because how do you prevail when you've got an interdict against you? Which would be crazy. So let's see what the Minister of Local Government is going to do after the recalls by Chamisa. And let's see what the next move by Chamisa is. This is almost the end of this whole debacle. We're almost there now in terms of this whole story of Chabangu. Chabangu is coming to an end. The man has got no case and he's not the interim Secretary General of the CCC. I've asked his spokesperson, Senator Kalipani Pugeni, to give me information on what is their game plan. He has not been able to do so, and I hope that Senator Pugeni disassociates himself from Anachawangu, because that is the end of nothing. This is crazy what they've been doing. Now let's go to the comments. That stand will not hold water. That's Jasper. Jasper, you need to explain, why do you say it don't hold water? Right, disputed elections are now a pandemic. MS Zimbabwean elections are not disputed. ED rigged according to SADC. So let me explain to you what rigging means. Rigging means your elections, if you put them against 20 or 30 criteria, you only lose on all the criteria. You don't meet the criteria. This is what has happened. SADC does not recognize the outcome of the election in Zimbabwe. This has to be sorted. ED cannot go around it. There is no way that ED can say, now things have changed. That report stands. He has to sort it out. And this is what he's trying to do right now. SADC is fully aware of how captured in favor of ZANU-PF every state institution is. Okay, let me tell you what the problem with SADC is. They have a secretariat. These guys work. So they're worried about their jobs. And ED is planning to become the chairperson. The problem which we have is that if you look at the SADC, President Hakainde Hichilema is the one who was pushing the SADC secretariat, was giving them support. So that is what we call top-level management support. At the moment, SADC is going to lack that support because President Hakainde Hichilema is going to be out. And Mnangagwa is trying to be on top when he's under the... So it's like be in court and at the judge. That's what ED is trying to do. Do you get it? ED is trying to be the judge and then he's in court at SADC. If that happens, it means everyone who is there will have to now think carefully about what they do. That's why you see, if you go to SADC website today, they've got a nice story about Zimbabwe and Monica Mtsvango. They're not ignoring Zimbabwe anymore. They're just looking to see what is going to happen next. So the SADC guys need support. Otherwise, Chamisa has to take this into his own hands. If he can recall everyone in the Parliament of Zimbabwe, the Senate of Zimbabwe, and in the councils, then that constitutional crisis will be there, and there'll be a new election in Zimbabwe. Jay says, even in my dream, I'll still vote for Chamisa. Even at gunpoint, I'll still vote for Chamisa. You can vote for Chamisa, but he needs to be declared president. That is the most important part. And then ED be allowed to take a position when there are some unresolved issues. I agree with you, Tatenda. He is not supposed to be able to take a position, and someone should be able to challenge this. I don't know how it can be challenged in terms of the SADC rules. ED should not be able to become chairperson of SADC when he's got an election that still has not been resolved. There must be something that disqualifies a person from taking over a SADC chairman. It should not just be rotational. So if you're a lawyer, think about it, but don't take a weak case like what Berias has done here to go to the constitutional case, such a weak case. This needs to be properly considered. How do you block ED from becoming the chairperson of SADC? Because he's not suitable to become the chairperson of SADC. He is a person that has a case in terms of his election being disputed. So Chamisa must find a way of blocking SADC from having ED as a chairperson. And I think I need to end it here. In terms of Dr. Clarence is a new channel. I'm going to share with you very, very soon. He's going through some various issues. He is in the raw areas. And as I said, the guys who can assist, please send money. We'll send it to Dr. Clarence so that he can get will be able to take care of himself. But currently, the family has taken him to the rural areas where they're taking care of him. And he's also trying to be on YouTube. But his YouTube channel was taken out by the ZANU-PF guys. So I think this is it for today. Very, very interesting. If anyone knows this guy, Various Brian Trust Mali, tell him to call me so that we can bring him here and he explains what he's doing, because he's basically legitimized the 2023 elections of August, everything that has happened after, with his weak case that he took to the Constitutional Court, CCZ 1 of 2024, which was thrown out this week. And basically, he legitimized the whole election. Thank you very much for watching, and a good morning to you all.